Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more r/my butthole. If you love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting the like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Whew, I went off there, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from a throwaway account titled, "Am I the Arsehole for watching and not doing anything while my wife was being kicked out of my company?" Hear me out. Just read the whole text. So my wife, female 26, and I, male 33, have been married for 2 years. I admit she is a hothead and can be a bit much, especially when she's mad at me. I take responsibility for any mistake I make, like not cleaning the bathroom after the shower or filling her car with gas after using it. I even stand there and let her unload her anger and frustration on me, but only at home and not in public. She tends to start arguing with me in public instead of waiting till we get home. Recently, she's been coming to my workplace to berate me over something I did the night before, like not getting the stuff I said I would get or doing the stuff I said I would do. It's embarrassing and humiliating and has been affecting my job to the point where I started getting a warning after a warning from my superiors who, I believe, have been very patient and understanding, especially when my wife makes a fuss at the office. Last week I was in the middle of a 2-hour meeting and next thing I knew was seeing my wife barge in while yelling at me, asking why I was keeping my phone turned off. I had to turn it off after getting warnings about it since she forbid me from turning it off. I was stunned because my superior and co-workers and potential clients were there. I didn't even move. My superior dealt with it and called security to get her out. My wife started arguing with him, telling him she came for me, and then started urging me to get off my seat and tell them to back off. But I didn't. I just watched as security escorted her out. It was horrible because I had a fear that my job was lost. She yelled at me repeatedly to get them to stop, but she got kicked out eventually. I told her she's no longer allowed there and this was going to be my final last warning. I apologized and went home. She was there waiting, then yelled at me about me watching and doing nothing while she was getting mistreated and kicked out. I finally snapped and said she was over the line and made a scene that risked my job over a few missed calls. She started crying, saying I should have defended her and getting humiliated in front of my co-workers. But I told her she didn't have to worry about it because she's no longer allowed there. She got more furious and went to her mum's to stay there. And I've got to say, reading that story, that's just screaming abuse at me. Coming up to your work and shouting at you in front of your co-workers, in front of your bosses, for not having your phone turned on. And you said there was other times she had done that too, like you'd not got stuff the night before and various other things. And OP didn't mention children in this one, so I hope that's not the case. And I wonder if they can get out of that situation now while wife is out, get out of there. I know that's very easy for me to say. And I wonder if they could explain this to their work as well, what they're going through. And rather than, giving OP a last chance at their job, come from a place of understanding that they're in. I'm not sure if that will actually happen, but it obviously depends on his workplace. But I'm a Herding Cat says, your wife isn't a hothead. She's abusive. She's going to violate that ban and get you fired. You need to get out. These things only escalate. Edit, not the arsehole times 1000. Sorry I had to be reminded to vote, to which OP replies saying, honestly, if it was another company with different administration, I would have definitely lost my job because of her. Obvious result says not the arsehole. This is a form of abuse and I would take this with a strong understanding that things are getting worse. You never show up to a spouse's place of work like that. OP replies saying that's what I told her 1,000,000 times over, but she refused to take responsibility and said that I'm the one creating these situations and I can't blame or dictate how she reacts. It's tiring having to go through the same thing over and over again. I get she's frustrated and I have my moments too, but I'd never show up to her workplace and cause a scene no matter what the justification is. Goonie Goo Goo says, not the arsehole, you're an abused husband. If you do not have kids, you should cut her loose. In fact, you could change the house locks right now. This would help your ability to keep the house during the divorce. Edit, your divorce papers should be served with a restraining order. Edit 2, thank you for the feedback on the lock changing. I'm happy to admit when I'm mistaken. Correct Jim says, not the arsehole, and this is 100% divorce worthy, to which Birchskin replies that saying, yeah, seconding this. Maybe not straight to divorce, but bro, you're in an abusive relationship. She turned on the manipulation when you defended yourself, but even in the best scenario, your partner doesn't belong at your workplace, barring some horrible, catastrophic emergency. You also shouldn't have to fear getting berated for something like leaving a towel on the ground. You deserve better and don't have to put up with abuse. You could try to get your partner to change, but it starts with setting very clear boundaries. Her not going to your workplace and not blowing up at you for minor things sounds like a start. Generally, this isn't enough and divorce will be the answer, but you can give it a try. Just make sure you take care of you, since no one else will. Now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this one? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's go on to another story. Now, this one's from Suppliant, who says, "Am I the arsehole for not letting my son listen to audiobooks after lights out? My wife and I have an agreement. She gets the kids up in the morning, I put them to bed in the evening. It works well for both of us. I'm useless for a good hour after I wake up. She wants to relax in the evening. That means it's always been on me to establish a good nighttime routine and to promote healthy sleep patterns, something I take quite seriously. The result is that both children go to bed easily and sleep well through the night. However, my son is about to turn 6 and is starting to get a little rebellious. Bedtime is now something to resist and to delay. I'm strict, so he knows he can't get away with it with me. He gets 1 or 2 stories and then the lights go out. My wife, on the other hand, is a bit of a soft touch. My son has started asking for mummy to come up and check on him after lights out. He'll then use this as an opportunity to play. Because she can't say no to him, she'll settle him by putting on an audio story that he can listen to whilst he falls asleep. It's now to the point that he expects this to happen every night. I want to nip this in the bud. I want to go back to the routine of lights out being time to go to sleep. To that end, I don't want my wife going up to see him after this time. My wife, who always used to listen to stories as she was falling asleep when she was a little girl, doesn't see the harm in putting stories on for him. If he asks him to, she'll do it. This led to an argument. I think she is disrupting bedtime. She thinks I'm being stubborn and banning something totally reasonable. Am I the arsehole for not letting my son listen to audiobooks after lights out? Edits. I'm not responding to posts because I received a short ban for breaking Rule 3. I thank those that have listened to me and offered constructive criticism. You've helped me shape my view on this issue and how I should continue. For those who have decided that I'm not the arsehole, I thank you for your sympathy. For those who think I am, I thank you for your candor. For those who call me a bad parent, I forgive you. You're only reacting to the words I wrote. Take care all. Now, to me in this one, I'm kind of going with, you're an arsehole for taking that away. If he falls asleep to it, I don't see what's the harm. Now, someone's probably going to come into this and say, there's some sort of scientific reason or something like that children shouldn't be listening at bedtime or something complicated that I probably won't understand. But to me, I sometimes listen to, calming sounds or whatever helps me get to sleep when needed. And I know several people who listen to audiobooks whilst they go to sleep themselves. So from that point of view, I will say you're the arsehole. As I said, someone's going to probably prove me wrong here, but I'm all for it. But Red Hill Bone says you're the arsehole, so as long as your son is going to sleep when listening to these audiobooks, you've lost nothing. You put on the book, tell him it's lights out, and then there's no need for mummy to come check on him. It'd be different if he didn't go to sleep when the book played, but this isn't a fight worth having for multiple reasons. Professional Sir says, look, you're the arsehole. Not because you want a time routine to go back to the same, but the fact that it bothers you that your son is listening to a story as he falls asleep. Your wife stopped him from prolonging bedtime with a smart way to help him grow in his education and imagination. Tell me, why do you see this as so wrong? Columbo's Peugeot says, I'm an adult and I often listen to a calming app, music or podcast to help me fall asleep. You're the arsehole, let him fall asleep to an audio story. What's the big deal? ETA years ago had one of those white noise machines where you could choose the sound. My faves were Distant Train on the tracks and Light Rain, and I think now's a good time to say you can now follow Mark Narrations on any of your favourite podcast formats, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any of the others as well. Cheeky little link there, why not? International Yam says, oh no, my son likes to listen to stories and invest in his vocabulary and story understanding skills, and does this in the most natural way possible. Yep, you're the arsehole. Good luck when he becomes a teen. This is quite innocent and not like he is gaming till 6 in the morning. Also, you can set a timer on most things so that it stops playing after 90 minutes or so. And the next comment says, you're the arsehole for misunderstanding the conflict. Listening to audiobooks after lights out isn't the issue. Your wife going into his room is. Either talk it over with her so that she has stopped going, or live with the inconsistent bedtimes. If your son needs an audiobook to calm down and fall asleep, put one on yourself. There's literally no harm in doing this, and being so adamantly against it is pretty silly. Now, what do you guys make of this one? Do you agree with You're the Arsehole verdicts, or do you have another opinion on the matter? As always, I love to hear it, so let me know in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Spiritual Progress 938, who says, am I the arsehole for telling my son his house was dirty and his wife needed a shower? I've been up all night thinking about this one, so I hope it makes sense. My son and his wife welcomed a baby boy 2 weeks ago. Both are 23. My son called me and said, would I like to spend a week with them? I said as long as it was okay with his wife, I'd love to. Well, I got there, he collected me from the airport and we talked and had lunch, then went to his place. When I got there, my daughter-in-law Megan was hurrying around trying to tidy up. She told me she only found out that morning I was coming. I looked at my son and he went red, then said it was time to meet my latest grandchild. As I was walking in, I noticed the house was not clean and that Megan hadn't looked like she had showered in days. It didn't sit right with me, but I've had 12 children, so I know things get messy fast, especially when you are tired. After meeting the baby, my son said, I'll leave you girls to talk, I'm just going to pop out for an hour to the gym. So I asked Megan how she was getting on with motherhood, and she told me that it was beautiful, but she was exhausted with feeds every 2 hours. It didn't sit right with me the way she said every 2 hours. So I asked her would she like to nap or do whatever while I look after the baby. In my 61 years of living on this earth, I've never seen an adult fall asleep faster. I looked after the baby for 4 hours and made lunch till Megan woke up and took a shower. After a day of watching my son who's on paternity do nothing but look at me and Megan when the baby cried. No help with the household work nor cooking when he should be doing all himself because she just had a C-section. I usually don't involve myself in my kids' relationships, but he got on my fucking nerves, and no, he wasn't raised like that. So I told Megan she was being a doormat and that she smelled like she had an infection and that she needed to be on bed rest and that my son should do 100% of the cooking and cleaning rather than act like a single teenager. They had a fight and my son told me I was a Karen and a bitch for calling his home dirty and his wife smelling. Me and Megan didn't fall out. She's asked me to watch the baby for a day, which my daughters and I have paid for, but my son, who isn't here, said I ruined his marriage and that it's all my fault. His wife isn't talking to him. Now in this one, I've got to say it's not the arsehole from me. I mean, what's the alternative to this? That you just let them carry on and you're seeing, your daughter-in-law continue to suffer, continue to run on fumes basically. Well, you said in yourself that when you turned up, he just went out to the gym, which I found weird in itself, especially when you've invited someone around, which daughter-in-law apparently had little notice of to begin with. And it just left me thinking, what is he playing at? What is he doing here? And whilst it was probably really embarrassing for Megan, I think, both of them needed to hear this. Your son for obvious reasons, and Megan, like you said, that she shouldn't be treated like this. But Black Angel Wing says, not the arsehole, your son should be helping out. You called him out on his BS and he didn't like it. That's his issue. Support his wife as much as you can and enjoy the time with a new grandbaby. Big Dick Slap says, great name, not the arsehole, you're exactly the person who needed to put him in his place. He sounds extremely immature and needs to step up and be a father. We need more mother-in-laws like you that actually call out their son's BS instead of praising them. I'd be so embarrassed and ashamed if he was my son, not gonna lie. Darkness says, not the arsehole, thank you for helping Megan. It seems she needs you. Now get his ass. Razzle Muck Wazzle says, not the arsehole, where to even start? Your son didn't tell her you were flying until the day of. As soon as you get there, he's off to the gym. It sounds like your daughter-in-law has been having a miserable time with recovering from surgery, breastfeeding, and not getting any sleep, while your son has just been letting the house get messy. It doesn't sound like your daughter-in-law was upset by you. In fact, it sounds like you were exactly what she and this relationship needed. Simply Sam says, well, this took a turn I wasn't expecting. Not the arsehole, and I'm sure Megan so appreciates you speaking up for her. In all likelihood, especially because she's not mad at you, you opened her eyes. Now, what do you guys make of this one? What would you do if you was mum in this? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Throwaway Formula 893, who asks, am I the arsehole for taking multiple containers of formula out of a couple's cart due to the formula shortage? 26 female, if that matters. My husband and I just had our first child last month. I haven't been able to find formula anywhere. He's on a sensitive brand of formula due to the fact that I wasn't producing enough milk to feed him. Last week, I drove 2 hours to another store just to get some of his formula. The shortage has been very exhausting and stressful to deal with, so when I finally say that my local store had some in stock, I immediately rushed over. When I get to the aisle, I saw an older couple taking some formula off the shelf. The aisle was small, so I just waited patiently. I realized they weren't stopping, and eventually they had about 40 cans of formula in their cart, emptying the shelf. I spoke up, asking if I could have just about 4 cans for my newborn at home. The husband scowled at me and they started pushing their cart away. I said, excuse me, and they couldn't just take all the formula when I clearly needed it as well. They said they got there first and that they had twins to feed, so basically not their problem. I was stressed and furious at this point, so I cut in front of their cart and started grabbing a few cans. I figured they hadn't paid for any of this, so why not? I wasn't going to let my baby go hungry because they wanted to grab all the formula. Obviously, they weren't happy about this and started yelling all sorts of stuff at me, but I quickly made my exit. They called me selfish, arsehole, etc. A manager came up to me and as I was checking out and said the next time I should get assistance instead of grabbing it. He explained there was a limit and they wouldn't have been able to buy it all anyways. I feel justified, sorta, in my actions, but I'm not sure if that was totally correct. Am I the arsehole? And in the UK, like probably a couple of years back now, maybe even longer than that, we had a formula shortage ourselves, and there was a big issue going around about people buying it and selling it online. So that was all cut down to like, I think it was 2 cans or 2 tubs of formula per person, and people were going in and trying to buy that, and they were getting stopped at the tills and taking it all back. People were trying to work ways around it, like by sending multiple family members in, so there was that issue as well. And I think if I was in your position, maybe I wouldn't have went for the conflict side of things, but I don't blame OP for it, that they went straight in for it and thought, I'm taking it. These guys are the arseholes for what they're doing. They're either clearly up to something else or, they're really concerned about the formula shortage themselves, but, should have empathy towards other parents in the same situation. 40 cans of formula. I mean, how the hell? That's going to last for ages, isn't it? I don't know. I'm not an expert on that sort of stuff, so don't quote me on that one. And let's face it, at the end of the day, they had 40 cans here. They scowled at you, gave you a shitty attitude rather than explanation and empathy. So, you was like, sod this. I've got a child at home myself. I'm taking that formula and I don't blame you for it. And there was so much stink in my local area when that happened where we live and there was a shortage. There was people trying to sell it on Facebook for like inflated prices. And whenever they tried that, obviously people were on them saying, oh, this is absolutely scummy thing to do, People are driving miles and miles to try and get their child some formula, and there's people, just buying it all up. Some people who even didn't have children, which was proven on Facebook as well, just to try and make, a quick quid. But Poddy Fry says, sometimes the question isn't if you are the arsehole, it's that it's not always morally wrong to be the arsehole. PNW Catman says, not the arsehole, and dollars to donuts that older couple don't have kids and we're going to sell it online at a massively inflated price. People like that should be named and shamed publicly. Emma says, not the arsehole, your actions were not the best actions, but you didn't know there was a purchase limit, so I understand why you felt the need to do it. Technically, it's not illegal to take something out of another person's cart. While it wasn't good form, then you should get the store manager involved next time so they can take the heat. I can't condemn someone as an arsehole for taking a couple of cans of formula from a giant hoard of it to feed their baby. Calendar Cheap says, not the arsehole. People that stock up like that are definitely part of the problem and reason for this formula shortage. I understand 2 babies need more formula than 1 baby, but you wouldn't buy 20 cans at a time for 1 baby, so there isn't a reason to buy 40 at once for 2 babies. I'm willing to bet they are just reselling it at a higher price and don't actually have any kids. Edit, since I was unclear earlier in this comment. I mean that people stocking up this many cans are making the formula shortage worse. I'm well aware that an entire formula making plant was shut down due to recall. And Columbo's Peugeot says, everyone sucks here, but you get a justified verdict. People who hoard supplies during a crisis are awful. Next time, get an employee or manager. Now, what do you guys make of this one? Put yourself in OP's position. You have a child to feed at home. You see it all being taken off the shelf at the store you traveled miles to get to. Do you think OP was justified in their actions to just take it from their cart, or what would you have done in that situation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, support and time always means the absolute world to me, so thank you so much for being you, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care guys, much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows. Okay, I know that today